What is up? Welcome to the pod. Today we are talking about undereating and fat loss. Does it exist? Does the body refuse to lose fat if our calorie intake dips below a certain point? Is starvation mode a thing? Let's get into it. So does the body refuse to let go of or burn body fat if your calorie intake is what the body deems as too low? No. Because if that were the case, starvation wouldn't exist. So why is it that so many folks think that this is a thing? There are three potential reasons. One, they think that they're eating fewer calories than they actually are. Two, they think that they are burning more calories than they actually are. Or three, both. They think that they are eating fewer calories than they actually are, and they think they are burning more calories than they actually are. But you hear me say this all the time. The body never lies. And so if you are not losing fat, it's because you are not in a calorie deficit. We must be in a calorie deficit to lose fat. And it's helpful to think about this like your budget. You may think and feel like you're saving money, but if you look at your bank account and you're breaking even or dipping into the red, it doesn't matter if you feel like you saved or you thought that you had spent less this past month. Your account is tracking everything. Your bank account in this analogy is your body. It accounts for every single transaction, i.e., how much you eat and how much you burn. And there aren't any technical glitches. It never does the math wrong, which is amazing news and should be super empowering because you can always rely on your body to give you perfectly honest feedback. And if your number one priority is fat loss results, that is exactly what you want. 100% reliable feedback. It does not get any better than that. Now, what can happen when folks shift their eating habits for the better is that they often increase the food volume of their diet and simultaneously decrease the amount of calories that they are consuming. Let's double click on this. Single ingredient whole foods tend to be very voluminous, yet fairly low in terms of caloric content. Whereas processed foods tend not to have all that much food volume to them. However, they have a very high caloric content. For example, if we compare a McDonald's Big Mac, which has 565 calories in it, to 565 calories worth of turkey breast, sweet potatoes, avocado, and a bunch of greens, the latter is going to be a much higher food volume meal. Because if you put the turkey, sweet potatoes, avo, and greens on a plate, it's going to weigh more than a Big Mac, it's going to look like more than a Big Mac, and it's going to be a lot more physical food. However, these two meals contain the exact same number of calories. And so when folks start eating more single ingredient whole foods and less processed food like Big Macs, they think that they increase their calorie intake because they're eating so much more physical food volume. But the calorie intake is either identical or oftentimes even lower because these single ingredient whole foods are so much more filling per unit calorie, which leads to eating less total energy. Meaning, folks tend to think that they started eating more and losing fat. And they did start eating more food volume, but they're actually eating fewer total calories. Hence the confusion. Another way that this plays out in the real world is when people get into a restriction and binge cycle. And in this setup, folks tend to overestimate just how low in calories that their restriction days are, and they tend to underestimate just how high in calories that their binge days turn out to be. But fortunately, we can always rely on the body to give us accurate feedback. Now, if you've fallen into this cycle, which I have in the past, I would recommend the following. Increase your calorie intake on your quote-unquote restriction days to a point where you are still losing fat over time, but you're not feeling so restricted that you constantly feel the need to binge. This cycle is not sustainable, nor is it healthy. And so the key here is to be patient and integrate a sustainable lifestyle approach as opposed to a I need to lose all the weight yesterday type of mindset. Also, be sure to emphasize food quality because higher quality food is going to have you feel like you're eating a lot more than you actually are because you're going to be nourished and super satisfied, i.e. not hungry. Hunger is not sustainable. And so if you are taking a nutritional approach for fat loss where you're regularly hungry, you're doing it wrong. You should not feel hungry all the time. That is a sign that your diet is simply not set up properly. It's also worth mentioning that if you don't emphasize food quality, you can undereat, not necessarily from a caloric standpoint, but from a nourishment standpoint, meaning you can undernourish your body. Because if you are in a calorie deficit, just white knuckling it and eating all sorts of processed foods, but keeping your calorie intake low, you're obviously going to be hungry all the time, and as a result, run into sustainability issues. But you're also going to make it much more likely that you develop nutrient deficiencies. And sure, fat loss is awesome, but we don't want our health to go out the window alongside losing some pounds. That is not the point. We don't want to rob Peter to pay Paul. Another reason to take a sustainable approach and get out of the restrict and binge cycle is that you're actually going to get to your goal faster. Because constantly restricting and binging is like going on a road trip without proper directions. And so you're just doing circles and backtracking nonstop within your own neighborhood. 1 step forward, 2 steps back. 2 steps forward, 3 steps back. It's an amazing way to feel like you're working super hard, yet getting absolutely nowhere. I wouldn't even say that when it comes to fat loss, that slow and steady wins the race because you can still lose fat really fast with a healthful and sustainable approach. Just take a look at all of my client transformations on n1fitness.com. Now, the one and only telltale sign of legitimate undereating would be if you were losing weight too fast. For example, if you wanted to drop, say, 2 pounds a week and you were dropping 5 pounds per week, you would be undereating relative to your goals because you're losing weight too fast. This is the only scenario in which undereating for fat loss is relevant, and it's very rare that someone goes, man, I'm just dropping weight too fast. I want to slow this progress down. Not all that common. So taking a sustainable lifestyle approach that fits for you specifically as an individual is going to get you to your ultimate goal so much faster and so much healthier, not only physically, but mentally and emotionally as well. Because like I mentioned, I've done the restriction and binge cycle too many times to count, and it just doesn't work. Not to mention that it's such an unenjoyable experience because it's coming from a place of lack and then constantly beating yourself up versus approaching your fat loss journey from a place of nourishing your physical, mental, and emotional bodies. The route that you take should have you feeling better and better over time, as you get leaner and leaner and healthier and healthier. So, circling all the way back around, is there such a thing as not being able to lose fat because you are eating too little? Fortunately not. If you're interested in applying for one-on-one nutritional coaching and/or workout design with me, you can click the link in the description below or head on over to n1fitness.com/coaching. On Instagram, I'm at n1fitness. On TikTok, I'm at the n1fitness, and on YouTube, I'm at marcustadoo/n1fitness. Feel free to leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform, if you'd like to, of course, and be sure to hit that subscribe button. Thanks so much for tuning in. I hope that you found this episode useful, and I will catch you on the next one. See ya!